why it's been really interesting for me. And it was, when it came out, I was suddenly very challenged by it, personally, you know, because it was like victim almost to survivor, and then survivor to being alive, about God. And I think a lot of abusers think of themselves like that. And the minute you're abused, you're like, there's a before and an after, and you're just changed. I had been, put in because they didn't know what to do with anorexia in Denmark, so they threw me in sort of a mental institution and everything. And I'm like, and then they threw me in a mental institution. I'm telling this story like, and then I went and picked some flowers.
Interrupted.
Yeah. Yes, like, and then, this is just awesome, because I've never actually talked about this part before. And I was like, yeah, you're going to do it with Anouska. Of course. I love that top.
Thank you. To rag and bone.
Oh, rag and bone. Yeah.
And the other chairs, I was developing a complex because my feet wouldn't touch the ground. So I felt like Alice in Wonderland. Do you want me to just say Ranston, or do you want me to say...
You can say Ranston. It's like
Ranston.
Ranston, yeah. Okay. You can say Ranston, because I've confused so many people by using my middle name, including IMDb. Beauty is not a talent. Do you know what I mean? Like you have
this is too good. Save it. Save it.
But then people will think I think I'm beautiful, and then I'm going to...
Hi, my name's Anouska de Georgiou, and welcome to the Empowered Exchange podcast. My guest today on the Empowered Exchange podcast is my friend and fellow warrior woman, Camilla Ranston. She's an author of the book Gynecology. She's also a real estate investor, an amazing actress and producer, and I'm so glad that she's here today to share some stories and some scandal with us.
Yes.
Hi, Camilla.
Hi, Anouska.
So happy to have you here. Thank you.
I'm so happy to be here.
I know. It's like, I feel like I'm using the podcast to actually just reconnect with all the people that I want to meet up with as some kind of like way to like make it happen.
It is a nice way. I think it's great, because like when you and I get together, we have such amazing conversations that I'm like, somebody should be writing this down,
Yep.
But yeah, it's so nice to see you in this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm excited, and I'm excited also that I get to bring in all my friends, all these amazing people that I know have amazing stories and amazing offerings to share with people, with their stories of success and their stories of how to get through challenges and failures too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm really excited about finishing
the
Gynecology
book.
book.
You can listen to it on Audible, or you can
get it on Amazon, so on Audible or in the
Barnes and Noble.
Amazing. And so tell me about the book. It's a collection of stories.
It was a collection of stories that I always had lying around, and then I had little websites here and there that I would put like a story up, and then I'd get really afraid of my own writing and I'd take it down, and it's also like just going through being a writer. I wrote film and TV, and the first, well, now it's just called Netflix, I guess, but web series when they first came out. So I was just like, the whole thing about writing a book was really scary, but I was already writing it because there was all these stories. And so I put the story sort of, down, and there's one story that I wrote about an ex-boyfriend once, and he found it on my website that didn't have my name on it. He got very angry, and and I took it down. Like, I had a friend of mine say, well, Camilla, you're a writer, so you have to decide.
Right.
And I was like, I don't really want to put people out there like that. Like, it was my experience of him in that moment,
Right.
He was a great love and everything, but it was, a lot of times I would think things are really funny. Yeah. And I think just also when other people read them they were like, if I didn't know you, I didn't know if you were going to be alive,
Right.
So I was like, okay, so don't put people out there like that. Just change a lot. And he was actually called me when he read the book, and he's like, I love it. I just love it. I know. And it was like not the person I thought was going to. And it was really nice to feel, you don't know everything. You really don't. And I'm like, what? But so it was nice to sort of reconnect with people in that way. So there really isn't anyone that is like I even feel bad for the friends I write about because like they have such flat personalities, you know, because I didn't want to take away their story,
Yeah.
you know, and I also am very careful with that. And, you know, people have written about me or put my character in a movie and I used to get very like, oh my God, offended. But then I'm like, it's really like the greatest compliment.
It really is.
It really is. And sometimes the characters are not nice, you know, or not smart. And I'm just like, and I used to be like, oh my God, I'm so sad, you can't believe. And I'm like, I can believe. This is wonderful.
Right.
Like, what a great privilege to have somebody tell how, you know, unfortunately sometimes you're at that side of you. But, you know, like, I just think.
But just to think that you were interesting enough as a character, or the event was kind of dynamic enough that that someone wanted to memorialize it in that way.
I know. I've always. Now I'm just so grateful for it. But I did stay very careful because I didn't want, because it was about my perception of, you know, things that happened, you know, and also at that time I was very much like, but it just happened to me, you know, and I wanted to keep that voice in there because I think, not that I don't go into my like own personal trauma and stuff. I just skate across it. I didn't, you know, but, I just wanted the story to be something that I could stand by. And then there are things that are made up, places are made up and all this different stuff. But it is very much who I was when things happened to me. And it's very rare to read a book. I don't think it's victim-y, but it is the person who hasn't gone to, what were you doing there? You know, what you could have maybe trotted out. And then I think that's what took me back to trauma because like I didn't know at the time you could remove yourself from a situation. Like I didn't know if you were a bunch of girls sitting around and I'm going, I don't like this. Like but I just don't like it. I didn't know I could get up and leave, you know? So that's where it's been really interesting for me. And it was, when it came out, I was suddenly very challenged by it, personally, you know, because it was like victim almost to survivor and then survivor to being alive.
Right.
You know?
I think it's so interesting that you talk about the experience of after you released it, having realizing, oh, like, could I have walked out of that situation? And the perception that you have at the time you're having these experiences is you can only operate from the place you are at with the tools you have at the time.
Yes, that's
I reflect on my own past, and I see that the person I am today would have totally walked out of there, and would have totally punched someone in the face, or would have totally, you know, sued someone, or whatever it is. You know, I would have held people accountable. But the person I am today was not the person who was targeted in that, you know, in that past situation. Because I wouldn't be. I mean, the thing is, I don't get perpetrated on now.
Right.
I don't get targeted. I don't get mugged. Nobody comes up to me and thinks, oh, you're going to be a good person to attack. People come up to me and they're like, oh, shit. You know? So I think it's so interesting. And I've sometimes thought about writing some of my own stories in an autobiographical way. And everyone's always said to me, you'd have to change so many names and so many things that it wouldn't end up being the same story. You know? But I'm so excited that
it is the same story. It's just like you have to keep like the emphasis. I had to keep my emphasis on me, and then there was some stories I'm like, why do you even need to tell this story? And then when I read it afterwards, I'm like, because it's kind of, you know, it was a lot of things that happened, like just living in LA. Like that was really the inspiration around it. It's like, you know, a lot of things like from the 2000s. Also how you know, the vernacular between men and women in the early 2000s, you know, people would say stuff to me and I would think they were being funny, you know, and I didn't know sort of you know, and also because I come from trauma. At the time, I didn't think of that. You know, I just had an eating disorder, but I didn't have all the other stuff. You know, poor you had it. You know, literally like that. And so it was the vernacular of that. Sort of not even man boy, I don't even want to say that, but that just very crude and rude. And I found it funny. And I was also reading through some of my scripts the other day that got me writing gigs, like, you know, like, and I'm like, oh my God, I think it's still a good script, but I'm like, there are things you have, because the way you write men, you're really good at it for the 2000s.
Right.
You you know, and so that's also a thing that's interested me a lot, like how men are coming to terms with all the things that we're experiencing, you know. So I'm just grateful that people like you exist and you come forward with your story. It means a lot to me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, you know, I couldn't do it if it weren't for the support of women like you.
Yeah.
And women who encourage, women who say, whether it's publicly or privately, guess what? Me too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that there is there's strength in numbers.
There is strength in numbers. Yeah.
And that, you know, there's no way that I could have or would have come forward with my own personal story with regards the abuse I suffered even 12, 13 years ago.
Right. No.
Because it was like, I mean, when you're talking about the vernacular from the 2000s,
Yeah.
right? You know, back when abusing someone was cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's
back
like-
when it was so cool.
Yeah.
When consent was funny.
Yeah, and also like the things that, you know, like I remember I was dating this guy and we were at a bar that was very popular then, and he, like, some guy said to a girl, you might as well sleep with me because I've told everyone you have already. And he thought that was so funny. Even I at the time
I mean,
was like,
that is a little,
what?
It is kind of funny.
It's fun. Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's, you know, disgustingly adorable,
Yeah.
you know, like, and a
Yeah.
much younger woman said to me like the other day, like, this guy's like, well, if you sleep with me, I bet you slept with everyone. And I'm like, really? That's his low self-esteem.
For sure.
That he
sure.
thinks because you know, or you're sexy or you look sexy, you're going to sleep with everyone. That is him. But at the time when people would say stuff like that to me, I would be like, no, I swear, like as if I'm on trial for like,
Yeah.
anything, you know? So,
Yeah, I think that's a thing that's shifted a lot, and something that I try and impart to the women I work with, even to my daughter, is this sense that just because somebody says something or does something that might feel offensive to you doesn't mean that you need to take that on as a personal affront to you,
Right.
or as a personal story about you. If and I always compare it to if you walk past like a bum on the street and they start calling you a whore, do you spend the rest of your day saying, but am I a whore? No. You're like, this person's crazy, I feel bad for them, and I move away from them.
right.
Whereas when we meet men in other circumstances, suddenly it's like, oh my God, he said this about me. And what does that mean about me? And, you know, what it means about you is you have had an exchange with somebody who has formed an opinion based on their past, their self-esteem,
Yeah.
as you said, their experiences. And you can decide to take that opinion of someone who you don't know that well and run with it and take it on as your own. Or you can just choose to leave it.
Yeah.
You know?
Just leave it on the table.
Just leave it on the
Just
table.
gonna leave it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, this thing has happened to me at 48 years old where I just don't care.
Yeah. That's one of the great things of, like, sometimes I forget I don't care, and I forget these people that are coming into my life don't know that I don't care anymore. And I'll say stuff and it's like, no, because I don't have to worry but that thing, God, Anouska, the thing you said about some homeless guy calling you a whore or whatever, I realized the other day, it was literally last week, and I wrote it down because things usually go right out of my head and then circle back a year later. I'm like, oh my God, there you are. Right. But I was thinking about, you know, all the things, oh my God, all the things people have said to me and blah, 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 all the things, oh God, you know. And then I was like, I was abused by two people in authority. Like, they had authority over me in that moment because like, I was very sick when I came into their offices. And so they had authority. And I realized that, you know, like, I would have somebody say to me, oh, you're a bad writer. And I know in my gut that I'm not. But I was like, yeah, that's right. I'm a bad writer. Because when you're abused by somebody in authority, everyone's an authority on you. And I will say, like, I've had random people say some stuff to me on the street, and I'm like, what do they know about me? You know? And I'm like, nothing, you know, about zero. But some people just know. I don't know if they can smell it, but they just know this one, or they're crazy.
That's an interesting,
Yeah.
it's an interesting sort of concept is, do they know something about you? Is it, and I do think that there's so much nuance in how perpetrators choose somebody to abuse.
Yeah.
Like on one level, I think maybe it's just a numbers game for some people. They just try it on everyone, and then they see the person that reacts in a way that allows
It's auditioning.
them to go further, right? I mean, the casting couch really could be extended to just day-to-day situations with perpetrators. And then I also realized from a psychology perspective that whether it's conscious or not, perpetrators are looking for certain qualities in potential victims. They're looking for somebody who maybe doesn't have a strong support system, somebody whose body language in a subtle way indicates that they might not be that sure of themselves, that they might not have a great team standing behind them, that they might not have a lot of experience, that they might not have the wisdom of age, that they might not have the education to be able to correctly evaluate danger, that they might not have the socioeconomic positioning to be able to fight back against potential abuse.
Yeah.
And all of these things, I think, are very sort of subconscious. I watched an interview the other day with someone who was a reformed pedophile, and he said, these are the things that made me choose these particular children as victims. It was someone who isn't very popular, someone whose parents are not together, someone who feels unsure of their own value in some way, and what are these markers? And he was like, and then I knew also that I could get that person, once I had them, to try and recruit others. Which is so chilling.
It's so chilling.
It's so chilling. But to go back to your story with the abuse of power, I am so sorry. It's not okay. And I'm also so grateful that you're willing to share this experience.
Yeah.
Because it's still happening, as you know. It will still happen. It's happening on so many levels.
Yeah.
In so many different situations.
Yeah.
To so many people.
Yeah.
And I think that abuse of power is one of the things that provokes the most anger in me. Yeah,
it does for me too. Yeah,
because it happened to me, because it happened to so many people, but also because as I've gotten older, as I've developed more responsibility myself, as I've actually stepped into more of a position of power myself, I realized the great responsibility that I have within that position. And whether you are, somebody who's in the media, someone who has a platform on social media, somebody who is a professional in the medical industry, somebody who is maybe in the education system, that is such a position of responsibility. And to abuse that is maybe someone who's in a religious position.
Yeah.
To take that trust that is afforded to you, that is given to you, because really, we have this thing where, and I'm growing up in England, we're like, if you're a doctor, what you say is true.
Well,
If you're a priest, what you say is true, right? And also, as a woman and as somebody who's younger, what are the consequences for me questioning the truth of who you are or what you say?
Right.
And I think that is, now that I'm older, I'm just so disturbed. But of course, from a logical point of view, if someone is a perpetrator, what's the best place? What's the best positioning to be in?
Right.
Right? I mean, also, when we were chatting earlier, we were talking about coming from not being American, right?
Right, yeah.
As you are Scandinavian and me from England.
Yeah.
And how different it is. And one of the differences I have is I didn't come here, I didn't have a religious background.
Right. I mean, I came from the Church of Denmark, where at that time, people, I'm sure the vicars were even afraid to say God in the church. There's such a distancing, but, yeah.
And so even more so when I see this abuse of power and this sort of extreme the extreme power that a lot of religious leaders have in this country, I'm kind of like, wow, how do you make them believe it? Like, it sounds so crazy.
Yeah.
But it's very, very real. And really, it's setting up a system which is like giving people, because I mean, I suppose the traditional version of God in this Christian country is really that's a father figure.
Someone to fear. Yeah.
It's a father figure to, and there's a sense of ownership and indebtedness.
Right.
You know, so this God has complete autonomy, complete power, complete ability to give or take away.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, I always challenge people to define the God of their understanding as, is this an intervening God?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And also as if you want to call yourself a representative of that, are you held accountable?
Right.
And who to,
Right.
outside of this being that we can't
Yeah.
question.
But I think a lot of abuse, like I was listening to every word you said about God, and I think a lot of abusers think of themselves like that. And like the minute you're abused, you're like, there's a before and an after, and you're just changed, you know? And I think it's that again, the thing of like, I'm telling you, like, if you talk that, you know, you have to fear God, then people will fear God. But it's very much the same as people, you know, like if you're told to fear someone, or like I'm also seeing it in that, which I love spirituality. I love the new age spirituality. I love all of that. But it's very easy to also abuse that. I mean, that was one of my abusers were in that sort of, he was an acupuncture and acupuncture wrist. And and so there's this thing of like, they know something I don't. And I think when your mind has already and your body's already been mangled with, you will always have that thing. If somebody says something about you, you're like, they know something I don't, you know, because they have the balls to say it. I sometimes think things about people and I'm like, if you say that to them, you're going to destroy them. So I'm not going to say it, you know? But that's when people say, I just want to let you know, I'm your friend, and I just want to let you know.
Coming
and
from
I'm
a
like,
place of love.
don't.
Yeah, please
do
don't.
not. Whatever you're about to say.
If you have to give a disclaimer before you say something, you probably shouldn't say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like the old, just being honest, but you look really fat in that.
Yeah.
You know?
I just want to let you know.
Yeah. I'm doing this for you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No. Like there's no reason for this particular gem of information. Yeah.
I was thinking about, you know, you as an actress and coming here. How old were you when you came to the States?
The first time I came and stayed for a while, I was 19. I was in acting school in London, and then I came out here, and because I was teaching, I taught aerobics outside of.
Amazing.
Yes. And so I came here to meet aerobics, like they had invited us out, like everybody who was teaching, and they invited us out. And, you know, of course, I knew always that movies were made in LA, you know, and, you know, like, but there was this thing that I didn't know that, like, that was an industry town. So every time, like, I asked somebody what they did, they're like, I'm an actor. I'm like, I'm an actor. I mean, that's so crazy, you know, because the industry town is just not something I was at all used to. Like London was not like, there was a lot of actors.
No one's an actor in London.
You know, but like.
But also if they are an actor, they don't admit they're an actor in London.
Yeah, they're like.
Unless you recognize them, they're not an actor.
Yes, yeah. And also like that time in London, it was like film and TV was not cool today. Stage was the thing, you know, so like I had a lot to learn when I came out here, but there was a lot about LA that saved me, because when I came out here, it was a few years after I had been abused. I don't know how could we say the great word that they.
Isn't it funny how like before I was abused. Isn't it funny how much charge there is on even like not knowing whether to call it that or.
Yeah, I think it's calling it by the 4-letter word, you know, is like, you better be sure.
Yeah.
you know? And I think that's what happens to a lot of, you're like, was that? I don't even, like, nobody thinks they're being raped if they're not. And I knew the story a lot. It would be in the back of my head. And once in a while, I remember I told early on when I was out here, I told a therapist and she was like, well, you had anorexia and that's why you were in there. So I don't think it really if something happened, I don't think it, like got to you. And I was like, oh, okay, like, and at the time anorexia was so big because I was constantly dying of that,
Right.
And so, I was so grateful I found a, 12-step program. I got myself back together, but the abuse was such an underlying B story, like that I just didn't deal with. And the times that I felt like, oh, I have to. There was twice with a boy with significant relationships where I told just like this much that came up in my mind and the first guy like cried and threw things, and I was like, and he's like, I'm gonna call your dad. I'm like, please do not call my dad.
Yeah.
And because my parents didn't know, but like the second one was a very significant relationship. And we were sort of like, okay, so this is serious and we should just put all our stuff out on the table. And so it was going incredibly fast, which is also no. And he told me all his stuff, which was all financial. And I was like, that was very scary, but I just, and then I told my story and we were at dinner. And I probably also told it like this, and then I was in this thing, and then I was, and he just went quiet, and he was quiet for 24 hours, and I was in his presence for 24 hours, and
were you wondering like, why is he still quiet?
No, I knew why he was like, and then later on he said, I know people who have been abused can often do things to other people, and my daughters, and I was like, oh,
Oh, wow. Yes.
But I didn't know how to go yourself, because it is true. Like sometimes things, people have done things to, but it's just, even I knew, like I didn't go, I wonder if, that is, and I'm glad that I was a victim for so long because I knew I was a victim. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was like, I wonder if I'm a perpetrator, And so I guess I was always sure about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nice to know about yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so, and also like before that, all that stuff happened, I had been, put in I'd been, because they didn't know what to do with anorexia in Denmark, so they threw me in sort of a mental institution and everything. And I'm like, and then they threw me in a mental institution. I'm telling this story like, and then I went
like
and picked some
flowers. Uninterrupted.
Yeah. Yes, like, and then, And so I can tell that, and that didn't help me at the time, surprisingly, because I was like 13 years old, and there were like really people in there who needed to be there, And so I sort of then took that show on the road and tried to be healthy. And, the time that then I was, sexually abused, I can't believe I just laughed. But like, then it was sort of...
But it's uncomfortable. I think that's why you laugh, right? It's still uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable because it's uncomfortable to other people, because when I finally got to, it was like my body was like, she needs to know that this happened because her life is so like, out there, and she's letting people in and she's doing this. So I literally had a 24-hour where I saw things, and I knew it wasn't, they weren't there, but I was like, I was seeing things and everything. And, anybody who that happened to for 5 minutes would call a doctor.
Right.
And I was like, no. If I can follow this TV show, I'll, if I can, maybe I'll go and work out. Like, I can't figure out where I'm going to work. Like, I go there every day. And so 24 hours of seeing things, doing things, and it was literally seeing in front of me what was happening. And I just kept going, yeah, but I know it's not real, And then I, called my doctor, and sort of we decided, he's like, I think this is what it is. And I was like, and he's like, what's the story? You have to write the whole thing down, And I did. And I could never find that document again. You know?
Yeah.
So it's, and then I also told, when you tell your friends, because I'm like, you have to tell your friends, it is too much.
Yeah.
Because the story, like the couple of stories are so, they're gory that I still feel bad that people have to hear them. You know, I still feel like,
Isn't that crazy how you, as the victim, you feel bad that people have to hear them?
yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of, because that implies on some level in your psyche that you feel some kind of responsibility for this experience.
Yeah.
And that sharing the experience is in some way putting on other people or putting them through something.
Yeah.
When this is, you know, a horrific thing in which you had no power or say.
Right. Yeah.
And then relaying that to somebody is purely sharing for your own good and to raise awareness, really.
Yeah.
And to allow people to know you and who you are and what you've been through.
Right.
And yet, and I'm saying it like this because I have it too.
Yeah.
I've noticed the language that I choose. And there are situations like when I'm talking on this, when I'm talking with friends who are on my podcast, when I'm talking with a client specifically, I feel so empowered, and I can say when I was raped and it was, and these are the feelings, and I can be so secure.
Oh, I can feel that when you said it. I was like, oh yeah.
I can be so secure in myself and in my lack of fault or responsibility in that time. And there are certain people, and this happened actually yesterday, when somebody asked me, somebody who is like a new friend was asking me very randomly about my first experiences with certain abusers and how I came into contact with them. And I was just telling the story. I'm telling the story, telling the story. Right. Oh, and then I was wearing this and I wanted
5, 6, 7, 8, you know, like, yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8. And jazz hands. And smile. And also, how do I make this an interesting story? How do I sell it to this person in a way where they understand the nuances of grooming? So that they understand how it feels, and how, and all of that work was so that you understand how it wasn't my fault.
Yes.
And then I got to a certain point in the story, and I was on FaceTime, and I disassociated. And I stopped talking, and I looked off to the side, and he was like, oh, what's happening now?
Right.
And because I realized most people like are not used to seeing that, and I couldn't speak. And after what felt like an hour, but it was probably a couple of minutes, I said, I have to go. And I couldn't be on the camera. And I just hung up. And I realized that I'd been doing the dog and pony show of, guess why it isn't my fault?
Right.
And that my body can't reconcile that anymore.
Right.
I can't put on the show.
Your body's like, no,
No.
we don't do that. Yeah.
My body's like, this was a serious thing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to prove it.
Right.
And I mean, even the sort of, you know, going back to kind of being young, being, you know, an actress that you were, I was a model, I was a singer, but as a model, I remember going to like, you know, castings. And I remember going to this casting and I walked in and I was, I don't know, 16, 17.
Yeah.
And there was a whole team of people there and they were all guys and they were like, oh, it's actually, you know, and I'd modeled for, you know, Vivienne Westwood and Chanel, and I'd modeled in very scantily clad things, and I'd done tastefully nude photo shoots that were for really artistic magazines, you know, at high fashion level. And I walk into this thing and my agent sent me there. So there's already the sense that this is somebody that my agent knows. This is, they've sent me here, right? With my book and my, you know, whatever, my grin on. And I walk in and they're like, oh, okay, well, it's actually like, you know, you're going to be lying down and you're going to be naked.
Yes.
And I was like, I remember I sort of took a minute, like a second, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, And they were like, well, and they said, well, come on, we haven't got all day. And what I remember happening, I remember my shoulders, like my chest concaving in with shame. And I remember very distinctly hearing in my head my own voice say, I don't want to take my clothes off. I don't want to do this. And there were 3 guys, and they were like, have you done this before or not?
Yeah, like, oh my God,
You
get on
know?
with it. Yeah.
Like if you don't want it, you can go, because we've got a room full of people to see.
Right.
You know, this is a great job to have, and we're shooting next week, and and so anyway, so I did the thing, right? And they take Polaroids, and this is a point I was, starting to drink and use and use substances to numb me from the other experiences that I'd begun to have that were not consensual.
Right.
And so I was at a party one day a few weeks later, and this guy whose house it was, after we were all quite intoxicated, he pulls out this Polaroid of me from that casting, and he throws it on the table. And there's a room full of people there. And of course, what else can I do except laugh? And then that's reaffirming to me once again, nothing bad happened to me. This is funny. I don't matter. My feelings don't matter. I am nothing.
And you did it. I mean, you did
And
it.
I did it. And I did. I volunteered for it.
Yep.
Yeah. And so then that has to be the story that I carry forward.
Yeah.
It has to be the story, because now I've agreed with it twice.
Right. Yeah.
So is it my fault?
Well, no.
Right.
But that story of, I don't know why it's so, I know with men who've been abused, they have the same feeling, but but in the female story, it is that thing, we're like the catchers of, whatever comes in to the cave that day, And so when that happens, it's like, you can't be trusted with your body. So other people should be trusted with your body, Men should be trusted. And that's also another thing that I still have a little bit, like my story, if I tell it to a man, like, I still feel like he's gonna go, ugh, and
what is the
well, he's gonna feel like either I'm sick or like I'm not well, which was I wasn't. Maybe not,
Right.
And or he's gonna feel like it's too much. But that's another, like the too much thing, and there's that, but then now there's that grown up part of like, go ahead, because I really can't be bothered. Like I cannot be, if you're going to be like, well, don't even. And I don't know why that happens so much later in your life, that you're like, I never trusted that I was pretty. And like we were talking about earlier, like growing up in Scandinavia and in Europe and everything, pretty is not a talent. So it wasn't like something that was, you're like, people would tell you because you're like, you're smart, you can read a book, and you're, and I was very into that. But like, I think there's so many stories that you tell, like, for example, Beautiful. Everybody should hear it. And everyone, like, people are like, well, it's not that important. We're not talking about necessarily what you look like. People should hear, like, you're beautiful, like everything about you. And I think that's where the disassociation comes, like the ick of like, no, you can't trust this, you can't, because, and also you're full of yourself and blah, blah, blah. And I've had to sort of hang on to now going, I am smart, I know this. And
what do you think, and I think the most damaging place that it can come from to not hear you're beautiful, or to hear the opposite of that, is your parents or your mother.
Yeah.
Most of us, most women I know, the first instance of attack is from a parent. And whether that's just not validating your beauty on every level.
Yeah, it's not beauty necessarily. Yeah, like, but that you are something special. Like for artists, like for me, it was like my parents were like, "Are you what? You know, like what are you going to be? You know?" And so yeah, I get that. Like not validating your beauty, and also, it's like right now there's a lot of talk about that's not what little girls need to hear first, and I'm like, they need to hear it all.
They should hear it all every day.
They need to hear that they're beautiful, they're smart, they're talented, they're funny. Funny is so important.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times, like even like 5 years ago, people were going, well, women are not really funny. And I was like, gosh, that's really, how are we going to break that to like, you know, Amy Poehler and like, be like, that's going to be really difficult to tell these, you know? Yeah. And, but just that thing of the negation of like, well, it's not funny. I don't know if negation is the word, but that is like a thing as well. That's just as bad to me as you're not beautiful. That's worse, because so much of my personality is wrapped up in you can be funny because, oh my God, this happened to me. But guess what? You know, it's like I'm telling, you know, like I was thinking like if I was going to write a book about it, it's like, what would it be? Like, how would people be able to handle it? I'm like, a pop-up book? Would that be great? Right. You know, like, so it is that thing of like, people, like men need to probably hear they're handsome and they're good and they're, you know.
I mean, I think every human being needs to hear from the day of conception until they are go into being sort of a fully formed human being, adult. They need to hear from the people who are innately designed biologically to love them. They need to hear you are beautiful. Every child needs to hear you are beautiful, you are talented, you are enough, you are brave, you are strong, you're courageous, you have talent. You have talent as an individual that nobody else has. And that is very special. And if we give that to them, and if we give it to them consistently and have them understand that nothing they can do could possibly take away from that beauty and that talent and that innate goodness. Then if somebody comes along in their life later and says, well, guess what? I don't think you're pretty or whatever.
They can be like, okay.
Land. It doesn't land. Because you've been...
The truth is,
The truth has been given to you of your innate value. And then that's just the bum on the street. It's just the bum on the street saying something that has everything to do with him and nothing to do with you.
It's... I wish everyone could, and you know, people talk a lot about in the press and I hear a lot of celebrities like, I want to help young girls, and I think that's so important. But I'm also seeing a lot of old girls that haven't come to, and it's not taking away that. Like I think young women.
Is that us? Are we?
No.
When you say old girls,
I say old because it's the opposite of young, or like mature. I don't like mature. To be quite honest, I don't like it.
I love being older.
I do too.
Because I love the lack of pressure that I feel. I tell people my age, and I love embracing the fact that this is a time in my life where I don't need to explain myself to anybody. I don't need to apologize to anybody unless I've specifically wronged them. I don't need to ask other people what my value is. I don't need to ask somebody else, would you please give me whatever you're offering, and I'll pretend it's enough. Because I'm self-supporting spiritually, financially, emotionally. And so I am in such a position of power. Because anything that somebody brings and offers to me, I can choose to accept or reject, knowing that I will be okay with or without it, and knowing that I can ask myself, is this a healthy choice for me and this person? Is this a healthy union for a career choice, for a romantic choice, for a familial choice? And I think there's just so much power in that. I'm so grateful that I am not 25 anymore. You know?
No, 25, that's just not, I mean...
That was not a good age for me.
No, like it was, when people go, I want to look 20, I'm like, I do not want to look 25 either, you know, like, so I understand, like, I do feel that there's so much power in, and I feel very good, like I'm on my own and everything, but like, then you have to be careful, and like, you have to invite more people into your life and blah, blah, blah. But there is something about being in your space and knowing like this is more than enough. Like this is, you know, and also when you're talking about, you know, like people you were with and you accepted into your life, I would always be like, you know, I look at them and be like, would I want to have a kid with this person? And I'd be like, no, you know, and then I'm like, but why are you with them then? If you wouldn't put a kid in the car with them, like let's say you split up and have to put them in, yeah, like why would you do that? You know? And so it's so interesting that you would put yourself in situations, then you wouldn't put would you put your friend in that situation? No.
Right.
I would be like, listen,
Yes.
you know, like
Don't walk, run.
Yeah. And so, but it's just such an interesting job you've given yourself in this life to be like, oh, I have to go here and do this, you know?
Yeah, it's
So,
self-assigned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important. Like you have a child, and I think that she knows all of this from like day one. Like she cannot be argued with because it's never going to be an argument. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? What are the things that you're working on that you want to come next for you?
I'm finishing this second edit on another book that I finished that during quarantine, and I also wrote another book.
Wow.
It was nice for me. I mean, I just got very, very, very creative. I did a little web show about, I mean, I did so many things that I'm like, should you have been left alone like, with your easel and everything? But it's a book. It's a fantasy, historical fantasy. And it's usually it's not my arena at all.
Okay.
But it sort of came to me, and that's something.
I was not expecting you to say historical fantasy.
I was never, ever expecting to say that because I love them. I love people, you know, but I was like, there's no way.
Right.
But, you know, like for me, characters come first and then they sort of tell me the story. And I'm like, okay. And there has been the amount of history that it takes place in LA in different times, you know, different times in our very interesting history. And I'm like, the stuff I know suddenly, like I never thought that I was going to need to know that. But there's something about that then, you know, I put myself in situations, it could have been a lot easier. I could have written a fun novel, you know, but for some reason, this was a story that needed to be told. And I was writing other things. And when this came into my head, I was like, I guess I am just, you know, taking what's being dictated to, you know. So it's definitely a challenge. It's an insane challenge, you know, but I'm very grateful that those characters arrived. Yeah. But there are 3 sort of main characters, so.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and that's also where I talk about the stuff more than, because I'm like, now I can tell the story through other eyes, you know.
Yeah. I remember, you know, I want to kind of end with this. I remember I've known you many years now.
Yeah.
I think maybe about 15. And I remember reconnecting with you. We were connected on social media. And I remember I was putting a dinner together and I was thinking, who would be an amazing dinner guest? And I thought of you. And I thought, Camilla is all the things.
Oh.
Beautiful, talented, super whip smart, nuanced, eccentric, funny, a little bit weird. Which is the highest accolade in my family is weirdness.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and she's got these great stories, and I just really wanted to spend time with you.
Yeah.
You know, and I just see that more and more, and I see you stepping into that more and more, that kind of ownership of being all those things, and being like, it's not, you know, yes, I am those things.
Right.
Yeah. And you are.
And I don't
all
need
those
to
things.
question them. I don't need to go, but I think, blah, blah, blah. And it's so kind of you to say that, because like also when we first met, it's so interesting because like I think we met through a mutual friend, or, like, and she, and you had so much, I would, again, that thing of like, this person has so much self-esteem and is so strong and is so, but that's the thing. It's like, I also think that can get us in trouble, is that our coping mechanism is like, you know, and also that's okay. you're still a big personality, and you just get like, it's okay, you know? Because I did try to sort of reel it in for a minute, and I was like, this does not look good on you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no more reeling it in
No.
for either of us,
No,
right?
I'm not a fisherman. Yeah.
I want to read just a little bit of the back of this
Okay.
because, so this is the book Gynecology. There are 17-year-old girls chased by pop stars and weird reactions to having guns pulled on them. Everyone has their own expression of reality, and young women are bombarded by a reality way too old for them. There are breakups written like a fashion expose and a couple of useful ways to train wolves. But mostly you'll find stories of relationships. Whether it's friends, lovers, our past, stories in the news that we are now participants in, whether we like to be or not, and how we react to things we have been almost hypnotized to be okay with. I mean, this is really powerful.
Yeah.
Even just that part.
Yeah,
is
I
so
didn't write that
powerful.
part because I didn't. Like,
No, but I mean, somebody wrote this about your.
I was
work.
shocked when I read it. I was
Right?
like, oh, nobody's gonna get it, you know. And then they got it, and I was like,
Yeah.
what's the excuse now? Because I'm sure I can come up, you know. Thank you for reading that.
So thank you for writing this book. Thank you for continuing to be committed to your authentic self,
Oh, thank you.
to being willing to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
and for participating in honest and open conversations about anything and everything that needs to be talked about. I feel really glad to know you, and I feel really excited to see what you're going to do next, and I know that whatever you do, whether it's writing or acting, I know that there will be a blossoming.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
You know?
Yeah.
And I so appreciate you, and thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you. This is just awesome because I've never actually talked about this part before. And I was like, yeah, you're going to do it with Anouska. Of course, you know? So I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank you.